What's going on, guys? It's your boy Big Hero Chris back at you with another one. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, give me a thumbs up, ring the notification bell, hit me up on Twitter, TikTok, the community post, Bluesky, wherever you can find me, Black Planet, MySpace, wherever, man. You already know the vibes. And I'm back at you with your Wednesday night Dynamite review. And this is the go home show for AEW Full Gear. And as far as a go home show goes, it was okay. I've seen like a lot of, discourse all over the internet as far as, this being either a good show to being the worst show ever. My whole thing is, it was an okay show as far as a go home show goes. I think AEW has done a lot worse as far as the go home show goes, because I remember episodes of Dynamite that felt like there wasn't even a pay-per-view coming up. So, as far as, being the best or the worst, it is what it is. So this episode of Dynamite started off with an 8-man tag team match, an all-star 8-man tag team match between the Don Callis family taking on the team of Will Ospreay, Mark Davis, Ricochet, and Powerhouse Hobbs. And this was a fun match. It was a fun opener. My only nitpick when it comes to this match, like I said, there's a pay-per-view coming up. One of the matches is between Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. And like a little pet peeve of mine when it comes to wrestling is like when you have a pay-per-view coming up, I don't really like the two wrestlers that are about to wrestle on a pay-per-view to wrestle against each other. Now, if it's like a brawl or a pull apart or a fight or a contract signing, stuff like that is fine. And in this instance, where it's a tag team match, they could have done something like have, Will Ospreay constantly trying to get his hands on Kyle Fletcher, and, Kyle Fletcher kind of weaseling his way out because, there's 3 other men on his team that can, just attack Will Ospreay when he's focused on Kyle. Just little things like that. But the fact that they wrestled each other so much, I kind of didn't like that. I kind of like, situations like this for the wrestlers to kind of be separated, but it is what it is. This match did kind of play up to the whole United Empire storyline with Mark Davis and Will and Kyle, and whose side is Mark Davis is on, and Mark Davis accidentally being hit in the face with a hidden blade from Will Ospreay. And then you also had the story of Powerhouse Hobbs' knee, because like earlier on in the match, it looked like he was injured. He was walking to the back, and then he came back, and you figure, Powerhouse Hobbs would play more of a role, and he kind of did, but not really. But the main story was the whole United Empire thing. Like I said, Mark Davis got hit in the face with a hidden blade, and then he took the pinfall from Takeshita. And surprisingly, I haven't seen anything. Maybe it's just gonna still be an 8-match card, but I haven't seen anything as far as Ricochet versus Takeshita, because that's something that's kind of being built up. But I don't know, maybe we might see it at Full Gear, maybe we might see it on Dynamite, maybe we might see it at World's End. But as of right now, it's not on the card, so it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Speaking of it is what it is, the next segment we see is the Death Riders. You have Wheeler Yuta, Jon Moxley, Claudio. And for some reason, as this promo was happening, Marina Shafir was like just locked in on Wheeler. Like she was just staring a hole through this man's head. And I'm like, what's going on? Is she gonna just beat this man with a suitcase? I don't know what's going on. But of course, Jon Moxley's talking about the match coming up with Orange Cassidy. Claudio talks about how he's going to murder Darby and their match later on in the show. You have Darby pulling up on his skateboard. He said he's ready for whatever. So we can just go ahead and just fast forward to Claudio versus Darby Allin. And storyline wise, Claudio does not like Darby because this man was swinging him into steel steps, throwing him from the announce table over to the timekeeper's area. Like he was just straight up trying to murder Darby Allin. And Darby Allin, God bless him, man. This dude, he's fearless. He's like indestructible. Like no matter what you throw at him, he just keeps coming back like a Terminator. But it wasn't enough because Claudio is very European and he's strong, and he beat this man with the clothesline. So there's that. And another thing you saw was Orange Cassidy, he was in the back. He was talking about, wrestling John Moxley. And the conglomeration pull up. And they're like, look, dog, we got your back. And Orange Cassidy's like, listen, nobody's going to get hurt because of me anymore. So no matter what happens, you guys stay in the back. And the conglomeration's like, yo, you sure? And Orange Cassidy, he kind of bosses up a little bit. He puts a little bass in his voice and says he doesn't want anybody out there with him. He's going to fight the Death Riders by himself. Mind you, it's like 5 members of the Death Riders and 1 Orange Cassidy, so I don't know. I get the fact that he doesn't want any more of his friends to get hurt, but it's 5 of these people. Like, come on now. Come on, bro. So we go backstage. We see the Hurt Syndicate pull up, and MVP's big announcement is that Bobby Lashley will be making his AEW in-ring debut tonight. And as they're talking, whose house? Swerve's house. Swerve comes out of nowhere and hits Bobby Lashley in the face with a chain. And then he runs away. He says, haha, and he runs off. And then you have the Hurt Syndicate trying to find Swerve. Like, you had somebody that looked like Swerve wearing Swerve's jacket get beat up because he looks like Swerve, which is racial profiling, but it is what it is. But now we go to Bobby Lashley's in-ring debut in AEW. And he wrestles Joe Keys and Ring of Honor legend Cheeseburger. I popped. I'm like, yo, that's Cheeseburger. He's about to die. And die he did. Because Bobby Lashley was just throwing Cheeseburger around like an actual cheeseburger. Joe Keys, he got clapped up too. He tried to do something, but he ended up getting locked into the Hurt Lock, hit with a spear. And Bobby Lashley beats both of these men in like 3 minutes. Then after the match, you have Swerve trying to, do his thing. He ends up outsmarting the Hurt Syndicate and lays hands on Bobby Lashley. He hits him with a house call. He hits him with a swerve stomp. And he skedaddles again. So they're hyping up their match for Full Gear. And I kind of like that. I like the fact that, you have Swerve, get the upper hand on the Hurt Syndicate, get the upper hand on Bobby Lashley, because you already know that Bobby Lashley is going to take it to Swerve, this Saturday at Full Gear. So when it comes to stuff like that, I'm cool with it as far as building up Full Gear. Something I'm not really too fond of, something that I don't really care about, is this whole storyline between Adam Cole and MJF and Roddy. I don't care. Like, you have Adam Cole come out and he's big up in Roddy, saying that, look, Adam Cole couldn't get the job done, but Roddy could. Max put all these obstacles in Adam Cole's way and it worked. But Roddy is going to get his hands on MJF at Full Gear. And then you have Kyle Morales come out and he's like, look, man, you're a good person, Adam, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, what's the point of all this? Because last week, Kyle didn't want anything to do with Adam Cole, but now this week he's giving out advice. He's, trying to use the power of friendship and, you're a good person. I'm like, where is this whole thing going? And then later in the show, you had MJF cut a promo on Roderick Strong. He pulls up in a trailer park in his expensive ass car, and then he throws money at a homeless person. I'm like, MJF is a terrible person. But then you see MJF talk about, Roddy's upbringing. He talks about how Roddy's mom and dad were addicts and how apparently Roderick Strong's mom shot Roderick Strong's dad in the face or whatever. And then you cut to Roddy. He says he heard everything MJF had to say and it's nothing he hasn't heard before. So, like, the overall story with all 3 of these men, I don't care about. But the match that's going to take place at Full Gear between MJF and Roddy, I'm down for it because it's going to be a good match because they both can go in the ring. So, yeah, I just really don't care about this storyline at all. But the match should be good. So, yeah. Another thing I don't care for is the fact that AEW has been around for 5 years. And Collision is better about this than Dynamite. But on Dynamite, we only get 1 women's match each and every week. And it's like, you have such an amazing, talented roster full of women. It's crazy the fact that we only get 1 women's match a week. Like last week, it was between Britt Baker and who was it? Penelope Ford. And this week we got no mention of Britt Baker, no mention of Serena Deeb, no mention of their interaction last week. This week the focus was on Chris Statlander and Cheetah. And this match was made official last week on Collision. For some reason, like, it was just a random match that was made. And the match itself was good, but what I don't like is the fact that Shida being used in this role, because Shida is one of the best women's wrestlers in AEW, and I don't think she's won a match this year on television, to my knowledge. Like, she's always used as the person to beat, and I don't like that. I don't like the fact that Shida's being used in this role, even though it is used to elevate Chris Statlander. There are so many other women that could have been used in this position. I understand what happened in the aftermath of the match, but Shida losing is not a good look. I'm not really too big on it. But then after the match, you have Mercedes come out. And something that's making me laugh is the way that Mercedes, for some reason, just doesn't like Camille anymore. Like, she's just really just dogging this girl, this poor woman, you know, with her one arm. Like, she's making her go in the ring and fight two women with her arm in a sling. Like, Camille only has one arm. And she gets clapped by both Chris Statlander and Shida. But then you have Mercedes try to hit the bank statement on Chris Statlander. But Chris Statlander reverses it and drops her with the Wednesday Night Fever. And she holds up the TBS Championship. Which means she's definitely not going to win the TBS Championship this Saturday. But, you know, the visual is cool. But like I said, man, there's so many great women on this show, so many great women in this company, and the fact that we're only getting one women's match and a backstage segment, I'm not really feeling that. Oh, my bad, did I say one woman's backstage segment? I meant to say two. The first one was between Mina and Mariah May, and at Full Gear, they're finally going to have the champagne celebration that's been delayed for months now, for many months. Speaking of Mariah, earlier it was announced on Twitter that Toni Storm is retiring from AEW and retiring from wrestling, which I don't believe. I feel like this is a storyline thing, because AEW has Grand Slam coming up in Australia, which is where Toni Storm is from, so I don't see her actually retiring. Now, this whole champagne celebration with Mariah and Mina, this could have been a match. This could have been a match between these two, but they're doing the champagne celebration, and they're really just dragging their feet as far as, you know, getting to Mariah versus Mina, which is probably going to lead to Mariah versus Toni 2, but okay, cool, whatever, man. It is what it is. One match we're definitely going to see on Full Gear, even though it's on the 0 hour, it's gonna be the what's his name, AJ taking on QT Marshall. They're gonna bring the boom on the Full Gear pre-show, and God bless him, man. AJ actually cut a pretty good promo, you know, talking about how he's gonna bring the boom. And then they said that the Rizzler is gonna ring the bell for the Costco guys. I'm like, God bless, man. This dude hasn't wrestled in, I think they said it was been over 20 years since this man wrestled. But here he is on Dynamite, bringing the boom, the chocolate chunk cookies. You know, he's saying it with Private Party, and he gets to hang out with his son. So, you know, good for him. Good for him. Good for Costco. Good, yeah. So, I don't want to say weird. I don't want to say funny, but it was weird and funny at the same time. It was weird because this was something that was started this past Saturday on Collision. Daniel Garcia and Daddy Magic kidnapped Jack Perry, and they stole this man's bus. So this week we see a pre-tape segment that looked like something straight out of the Dark Knight. Like, you had Jack Perry tied up to a chair. Daniel Garcia is trying to use his Batman voice. He's threatening to hit this man in the face with a crowbar, but he ends up destroying Jack Perry's school bus. And yeah, this felt like the Batman and Joker interrogation scene, but not as good, but it was still entertaining. And you know, I'm actually excited for the TNT Championship match between Daniel Garcia and Jack Perry. And the really funny thing about this was you go from this Dark Knight-ass segment to a Learning Tree segment. Like, you have Chris Jericho and Tomohiro Ishii doing a contract signing. And the stupid thing about this is Chris Jericho called out Ishii for the match. He made the match official. He challenged Ishii. So now you fast forward all these weeks later, and Chris Jericho was acting like he doesn't want the match, like he doesn't want to wrestle Ishii. He's saying that, oh man, I want to sign the contract, but my lawyers got to look over it. So he takes the contract and he just walks away. And then you see Ishii just following Chris Jericho throughout the arena. Chris Jericho is like moving trash cans and people in front of in the way, and Ishii just moving everything. And I can't lie, this segment was bad, but I laughed at the fact that Chris Jericho was just walking straight face away from Ishii. And yeah, they eventually signed the contract, and the learning tree beats up Ishii, and the conglomeration comes out, and blah 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 blah. So yeah. So the last thing I want to talk about is the main event match between Orange Cassidy and Wheeler Yuta. His former protege, his former best friend, his former boy. They grew up in Philadelphia together. Orange Cassidy let this man sleep on his couch, and now he's joined up with the Death Riders, and they're committing evil acts. They're choking out people with plastic bags and beating up best friends and whatnot. So now this match happened. And another thing I want to be honest with you guys about is I don't care about Wheeler Yuta. No matter how hard they try to push this man, no matter how many of Bryan Danielson's moves they give this man, I don't care about Wheeler Yuta at all. They really try. They really try to make you care, but me personally, I don't. That being said, the match was good between the two, but I don't care because I don't care about Wheeler Yuta. Orange Cassidy ended up getting the win. And then after the match, you have Pac come out. Like, Pac showed up out of nowhere. Like, we haven't seen this man in a couple of weeks, but he showed up. He kicked Orange Cassidy in the face, and then the Death Riders put the beat down on Orange Cassidy. And per OC's request, nobody came out. Nobody came out to help him. He wanted to do this by himself. The Death Riders end up like using duct tape to tie this man's arms together. They put his hand in his pocket and tied his arms together, and they just schoolyard bullied this man. They're pushing him and shoving him around, and they're beating him up. And Orange Cassidy tries to do the lazy kicks, but Jon Moxley knocks him the fuck out. And that's pretty much how the show ends. You know, it ends with the conglomeration eventually come out to help Orange Cassidy as the Death Riders walk away. And yeah, that was the closing shot between the two. Yeah, man. So Full Gear is this Saturday. On paper, it's like 8 matches and the pre-show stuff. And honestly, it looks like a solid card. The build wasn't all that great, but it could have been a whole lot worse. As on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll say my interest level in Full Gear is like a 6.5. But the matches should be good and the show should be good as well. So with that being said, guys, what did you think of this week's episode of Dynamite? Are you excited for Full Gear? Let me know in the comment section below. Of course, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You guys take care. Peace. I'm out. Peace.